ADK Rock and Metal channel, and today we are going to be doing the random discussion generator. There we go. Generator. And we will be discussing whatever the topic comes up. So, yeah, Andy, do you want to do the honours?
Yeah, this is it.
Spacebar it away. Shoot, Kirk again, go.
Oh, good question.
Okay, here we go.
Good
So,
question.
do bad albums get better with age? So there are some bad albums out there, certainly. And I guess this is where we have albums that have been slated at the time of release, got absolutely slated, but are now referred to. Are there albums that like that get kind of people listen back and go, do you know, it's actually a really good album? Plus, there are also going to be ones that don't get better with age. So, I guess, is there an album that you can remember that you thought was just an awful album, but now you listen back to and go, do you know what, I really enjoy that? Not just like in hindsight you think, do you know what, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but actually you enjoy it now.
And people understand it now because it was ahead of its time.
Might have been, yeah.
I'll have to think about it from a sort of music fan's point of view,
Yeah.
but from a sort of journalistic point of view. I remember when the first Bathory album came out.
Right.
84, 85. Same with Slayer's Show No Mercy. Kerrang was the only sort of music magazine I read at the time, and you know, 1K absolutely slated. You know, and look at them now. You know, classics of the genre. Fantastic bands, still popular, and today, you know, Slay we've discussed. Bathory not so much. Obviously, they're kind of still underground and sort of, you know, have a certain fan base, but. When you think about them as well, I mean, I obviously I thought they were excellent from day one, but now looking back, you can tell, you know, listen to sort of the musical naivety and the recording, you know, the lack of quality of the recordings as well. But as you know, they're great albums. They were then and they are still now. But journalistically as well, I think those Kerrang staff members. Xavier Russell, I think it was the guy's name.
And they ended up liking that.
Yeah, of course they did, yeah.
A.D.K.
Yeah, all those sort of guys.
Okay, yeah.
So there's an example from me, but from a personal point of view, I'll have to sort of have a little think about it. But what about you, Kirk?
Yeah, I'll pick up on that Kerrang issue. So in the same issue, I saw someone post this. Voivod, Slayer, and Bathory all got 1 out of 5, and the journalists were fucking laughing at how bad this music was.
Yeah.
3 years later, they're all taken seriously. And the best example of that is Hellhammer, the precursor band to Celtic Frost, who were fucking detested in the music press. And I think even Tom G. Warrior was ashamed of that band. And then when the second wave of black metal explodes in the early 90s, they're all citing Hellhammer as their main influence, which is the most primitive extreme metal imaginable, is Hellhammer. And now he's playing this stuff live in Triumph of Death, and he's no longer ashamed of it. So I'm going to give 3 examples with 3 different questions. Number 1, can the first album be shit because there's no budget and the band quickly disown it, and then 20 years later it's seen as inventing a genre? Yes. Paradise Lost. That 1990 album, Lost Paradise, the band hated that within 3 years. They hated it at the end of the 1990s and claimed they couldn't remember how to play it. Fast forward to 2015, that is the first Death Doom album. It's fucking brilliant now.
Same with In Flames first.
Yeah, so when you listen to it now, knowing that it invented a genre and people just did not get it at the time, and there was a lot of naivety to it, and there was a low budget to it, that's what makes it even more romantic. The next one, an album that people didn't really like because it jumped on a trend and stands up, Machine Head, The Burning Red. I think that's a good album now, looking back. I think there's some of the best songs he's done. The lyrics, really intense, quite personal.
You'd be better to go with something like Bulldozer, the next album.
Well, no, I think that's still shit, in my opinion.
Never heard of that. Machine Head album, cool.
Yeah.
It's seen as the ultimate like sellout, isn't it? There are some tunes on it, to be fair. And then the third example,
There are some tunes on it, to be fair.
but it's not a great album. But and then the last category are the bad albums that you cannot rehabilitate. Celtic Frost, Cold Lake, the worst metal album of all time.
I think it was the
biggest sellout album of all time. They've just invented avant-garde metal with 1987's Into the Pandemonium. Martin Eric N leaves the band. Tom G. Warrior brings in some shredders, and they end up writing cock rock. It's fucking atrocious, that music. And Tom G. Warrior within months knew it was shit, and it basically destroyed the band. They never really recovered from it. So those 3 examples, bands that unintentionally invent a genre that which no one knows about at the time, including them. Those that have aged well, those that you can rehabilitate and those that you can.
So the question would probably be better to ask, instead of do bad albums get better with age, is what causes an album to be referred to as a bad album?
And what are the bad albums?
Because so Scent Anger would be a clear one, and actually, does that get better with age? No, it doesn't, because the production didn't change. The only reason people actually go back and say there were good songs on that album is because someone went out and there was a group of guys that actually re-recorded the whole album with better production, with a clear snare sound, and got this guy that sounded like James Hetfield to re-record all the vocals. And actually that album is actually a really good album, but the problem is the album itself didn't get better with age because the production never changed. So the production was shit. Within that same area, you have the mashup of the album Lulu from Metallica. It was atrocious when it came out. It's atrocious now. It was never designed. So you're letting there go, what? What album's this, Lulu?
Lou Reed. Yeah, I never got around to listen to it. Not everyone
It's
listens to
fucking abysmal. It's basically avant-garde rock stroke jazz metal. You'd fucking love this
I
shit.
like it. I know.
You would love fucking Lulu.
Yeah.
It's designed. It doesn't sound like anything that Metallica did
Yeah.
or would ever want to do, and probably from that reason alone they went off and did it. So the question then about what makes a bad album is production, but is it also the variance to the expectation?
A misguided step. Yeah.
So is it because someone goes, I'm expecting this band to put out a really heavy album, and then they go off and do something that's got kind of disco elements into it, and people go,
Kiss did
fuck you.
Kiss did
This
that.
is not, Kiss went off and did it. If you listen to it in hindsight, 10 years later, you go, actually, you know what, that was actually a good album. But
Yeah.
we've had the chance to suddenly go back. Now, we did Trivium the other week. Trivium changed their style multiple times over albums, because their first album was directed a little bit by the look of the band, etc., was directed by the record label. And they had a specific kind of style they went for, and then they changed their sound, and they had more of their own sort of influences, and so they went up and down in quality. But the problem was actually each album was really good when taken in their own, with no expectation. But when you had an expectation based on the previous album of what you were going to get, people were like, fuck you, I hate this. Theatre of Tragedy might be another example of that, where you were into them for a bit of time. They changed.
Music. Was it called Music? That album that's
Yeah, I
gone more electronic
it
direction?
did. It was a very drastic change of direction, but I didn't dislike the album. I just wish it wasn't a Theatre of Tragedy album.
What are,
okay, so it's
what
different.
are the sellout albums then? Metallica come up. So
Metallica-
Load is the biggest sellout.
See,
Which actually a good hard
I loved
rock
that
album.
album. When it came
It's
out,
a good hard rock album.
the thing
isn't it?
was, is when
It's not Metallica.
I got into Metallica on the Black Album.
Yeah.
So I went backwards, and when I first listened to Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All, I fucking hated those albums. I couldn't listen to them. I wasn't even a big fan of Master of Puppets, because I liked the Black Album. Then Load and Reload came out, and I loved Load. I thought Load was a great album. I saw them in the Sketch Studio when they did 2x4. I was like, yeah, groove and bounce. I was really
I
happy.
mean, it's a big sellout though when you look at it as an album.
But to me, I still say Load and Reload is the most honest that band has ever been in their songwriting, because they did give fuck all. They just literally went to their personal influences and put their own personal influences on record. Every album they've ever done since then is they go, we need to write a metal album because we're Metallica.
Do we need
It's not
to
personal, but
change the adjective there to bad to something else? Alternative album.
what makes a bad album?
Yeah.
Or
So
The
I think
examples we've given
bad
have been,
production, sellout.
yeah.
there's reasons.
Risk.
I actually
You
think
take a big risk.
a
about
bad,
praise.
a bad album. There are going to be bad albums which have been badly produced, and they never get better with
Oh,
age.
yeah.
So
Nothing's
I
gonna
think
change.
a badly
Five
produced-
debut album. War and what's it called? War and Pain.
Yeah.
And Raw. The production just unlistenable.
So for instance, Sepultura's Morbid Visions, or was it Bestial Devastation? Was the other one?
Well, there's some charm to that now, isn't there, in hindsight?
I
Because like,
stand-
oh, it's the first ever death
If
metal.
you got into it at the time, then yes, you still had that passion because you listened to it at the time and you were part of that experience. But if you listen to it now, I can't listen to that. It's the production's so bad on it.
See,
I can
But if you like black metal,
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's
I've got-
unintentionally
I can't listen to black
influential.
metal.
I have no
Fucking
problem with
awful.
those early Sepultura releases, but another example that's coming to my mind is Carcass's Reek of Putrefaction.
Fucking
That
hell.
is unlistenable to me.
Yeah.
But
it's
you
influential.
take some of them tracks which they re-recorded, and they're really good songs. And you imagine an album that was recorded better.
Yeah.
It is a bad album because of the production. It's not a bad album because it's got terrible material on it.
I mean, the band, didn't Jeff Walker call it a musical abortion? So that they were not happy with that product. Within 2 years, that album is cited as inventing gore grind, reputrefaction. So 1987 it comes out. That production is probably the worst I've ever heard. It is atrocious. And unintentionally, people who were listening to stuff like Throbbing Gristle, who wouldn't normally listen to metal, looked at the album and thought, oh, this is interesting. So it's a bit like with Lost Paradise. You can get a band that unintentionally create a genre, and they're like Hellhammer. They're almost ashamed of it, and then when they see 5-10 years later it's influenced others, they start to look at it from a different angle. But like the big sellout albums, so okay, Metallica. Sorry, what we've identified.
Metallica as a whole.
Yeah, so we've identified bad production, sellout. Can we identify an album that was an ambitious risk that failed at the time, that was seen as
Volume 1.
Tell us, Scribe Volume 1. I mean, here's one for you. My Day in Bride. What is the decimal number?
Yeah, 34.788.
Which is a good album when you go back now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is why it's not a bad album, but it's so far from what preceded it and what followed. You're kind of thrown off. But now looking back at it, it's an album I can listen to and enjoy. But at the time, I hated it. But it's not a bad album, is it?
Yeah.
So I think its perception changes.
Do albums you used to hate get better with age? Is perhaps a better question.
Yeah. So I mean, it's because we didn't know what makes a bad album. It's just whatever. There are multiple things, but I think if it's really poor production, that doesn't change unless there's a novelty or charm factor towards it.
I remember reading a review. It might have been Loudwire, and it said, "This isn't just a poor album. This is a bad album," and it got 1 out of 5 across the board. They came back and returned with a new singer.
I'd say poor was lower than bad.
Yeah. Well, they came back triumphantly in 2022. What else have they're a good band, Fallujah. Trying to think, the band's albums that have been detested. That band 6 Feet Under seem to be hated, don't they? Chris Barnes' band, ex-Cannibal Corpse.
Okay. Yeah.
My God, have you seen the reviews of their last 2 albums? They're just like universally 1 out of 10. 1 out of 5.
But also, again, it depends on who's reviewing it, because okay, so here we go, Nickelback.
Yeah.
Every album, there'll be people go, fucking awful album, it's bloody awful.
Well, they won't listen to the music, will they?
Because it's butt rock, as you would call it.
Yeah, but
they'll sell out stadiums.
Yeah.
Because some people will say it's absolutely amazing stuff. Creed, was it the 2nd or 3rd album, got absolutely destroyed by it.
Went diamond, didn't it? The second
and yet
album.
it sold stupid amounts of records because of the fan base, but critiques will naturally hate it because Five Finger Death Punch is another band that gets absolutely critical because of hatred towards the band. People will slate the albums without giving them the reputation.
You raise a good point, and please, you've done that, right? Journalistic integrity. Some reviewers don't want to be seen to like something because everyone else hates it and they want to lampoon it. Have the courage to go and try and listen to that album and pick out the negatives, the positives, give your own verdict. Just because everyone hates bands like Coldplay and Nickelback and Imagine Dragons. I've not listened to Imagine Dragons, but I'm led to believe they're the shittest, blandest band on the planet. I can't offer a comment. It would be easy to just go with what everyone else says, but I can't give you an opinion on that because I've never listened to the music. And I think you're right, at the time, certain albums bandwagon jumping, isn't it? It's a band that's fashionable to dislike.
Yeah.
And then if you come back into favour, does that lead to the rehabilitation?
Because you don't want to there's a lot of people go, I don't want to sit there and say, oh, I really like this musician or music because it's good, it's catchy, because I don't want to be slated for that. Or look down.
You don't want to be seen to have.
Which is a weird thing to say as a grown-up. As a kid, you would understand that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I listen to everything. I listen to loads of stuff in the pop charts as well. Though I'm getting sick and tired of turning the radio on and having the same 5 fucking songs on every time from like Radio 1. It's like, can you stop playing me? I've got Ed Sheeran followed by Taylor Swift followed by someone else I can't remember. And I'm like Katy Perry.
Dua Lipa, is she called?
Dua Lipa is on there as well. And I'm like, okay. They're all catchy songs, but I don't want to listen to the same ones over and fucking over again. Could you put me something else on? So, but I have no problem listening to pop music. I take it in the picture sort that it is. That I'm like, it's pop music. It's not the most complicated song. It's done with a very, very clear purpose in mind. It's to get a hook worm in your ear and get you to sing along with it, and does the job.
Should we end on an example then? Slayer, Diabolos in Musica. That's probably the best example.
Love that album.
Has that got better with age? So in your opinion,
I love the album.
Oh, you liked it anyway?
I like the album from day one because, again, if I went back to what was the one before that?
I like that Divine Intervention.
And that had, what was that, Ditto Head on it?
Yeah, that's the last.
Fucking hated that
That's the
album.
last great album they did.
And that's, again, I went into Diabolos in Musica with the idea that it came out. I was like, oh, should I get it? Shouldn't I get it? And I got that, I heard State of Mind. I was like, okay, do you know what? I like the fact they changed direction. Because I just didn't want fucking Ditto Head again.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad album. I listened to it a couple of years ago, with that perception, has this changed? Yeah, it's not a disaster, that album.
I think so. What it's more a case of is, do people's perceptions of albums change with age?
Megadeth Risk is fucking hell, that is a poor album. I remember listening
I liked
to
the
that.
album when it came out. World Needs a Hero, the one that came out.
No, I like that.
That's fucking abysmal.
Fucking great album, that's underrated. And you and I do not agree on any Megadeth or Slayer album, do
I'll
we?
say,
World Needs a Hero is a good album.
But that's exactly the problem
yeah,
here.
you've given some examples there. Dave likes it, Kirk hates it, Kirk likes it, Dave's heard it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of them. So.
Fuck, so you need to listen to some more music.
I
Fuck's sake.
can't say about Megadeth's Risk or Diabolos in Musica or
Yeah.
Slayer. Never heard of them, so can't offer an opinion.
No.
But yeah, it's a broad-reaching topic, isn't it? And
It's, yeah.
Can they get better? The answer is yes. Do they always get better? No.
I mean, you said, Dave, if the production's terrible, that's never going to change. But that's not to say people didn't like it when it came out, and people are not going to like it now.
I think the only thing that changes is people's perceptions of an album.
I mean, there's so many sort of threads to this topic. You said about sort of bandwagon jumping, and it's fashionable to dislike certain bands without even giving their new album a chance before you've had that premeditated opinion already. So, yes, broad-reaching topic.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed our video today, please do like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you on the video sometime very soon. Take care.